أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم صبغة الله ومن أحسن من الله صبغة ونحن له عابدون قل أتحاجوننا في الله وهو ربنا وربكم ولنا أعمالنا ولكم أعمالكم ونحن له مخلصون أم تقولون إن إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق ويعقوب والأسباط كانوا هودا أو نصارى قل أأنتم أعلم أم الله ومن أظلم ممن كتم شهادة عنده من الله وما الله بغافل عما تعملون تلك أمة قد خلت لها ما كسبت ولكم ما كسبتم ولا تسألون عما كانوا يعملون الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ثم أما بعد. Once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We're at the end of the first juz of the Quran, and this is still very much in the middle of Surah Al-Baqarah, and we haven't even really reached the half point yet. Nonetheless, here, if you recall the last ayah we talked about, فَسَيَكْفِيكَهُمُ اللَّهُ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. It concluded in this way. Allah told His Messenger that Allah will be enough for you against them, and He hears everything and knows everything. And then this form of speech that is coming in the ayah, it requires something more in translation. You can't just translate it word for word and expect that the listener will understand what's being said. Just to give you a little bit of background, in Arabic, it's a very common thing, especially in classical Arabic, to not say the whole thing and to expect from the listener that they can fill in the blanks themselves. And to give you a very primitive example of that in English, when we say to somebody, great, we don't really mean great, we mean that is great. But we don't say the whole thing, we just say the predicate of the sentence, and we assume the rest of it is implied or understood by the listener. That would be a primitive example of what happens in Arabic. In Arabic, the way this is done, in English we call this omission, right? In Arabic, the concept of hadf, omitting something is far more advanced. And usually in English, when we omit things, the thing is very obvious. And in Arabic, usually it's some kind of a verb. And so, for instance, here we have Sibghat Allah. Sibghat Allah. How I would love to explain to you the grammar of Sibghat Allah, but we know that most of us aren't students of Arabic. Right? But it starts with the mansub, it starts with a fatha. And you know how you say Subhanallah, and Subhanallah, the noon has a fatha on it? That actually means there's something before that is understood, that that the Arabic listener will understand, or the student of Arabic will understand. Something more is being said than just Subhanallah. It's actually Usabbihu Subhanallah, or Sabbihu Subhanallah, or Nusabbihu Subhanallah. Something is there. But for the average person, they won't see that. The same thing's happening in Sibghat Allah. It's actually like some ulama say, Ikhtarna Sibghat Allah. Sibghat Allah literally means the color of Allah. The color of Allah. That's an expression, it's a figure of speech. What does that mean? Actually, the whole expression means we have adopted the color of Allah. In other words, imagery is being provided in the ayah. This is an ayah of imagery. A lot of Arabic is pictures. Like paintings or pictures are drawn through words. So I want you to understand this picture that's being painted. If you pour color or paint on top of someone, they're completely colored in that, their clothes, their face, everything is colored in that one color, right? They're immersed in it. When you say Sibghat Allah, you are saying you have through and through adopted Tawheed, the oneness of Allah, the uniqueness of Allah, the lordship, the authority of Allah, the acceptance that Allah is the master and you're the slave. You have adopted that entirely. You are painted in that color. You've been immersed in that color. That is the only thing about your identity. And this was really a powerful statement to make to the Yahud especially, because they identified themselves with nation first. They identified themselves with nation first. And if you remember the conversation before, they were reminded of the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam, whose primary focus, Hanifan, وَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ, right? His primary focus was Allah. So now we're going back to the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam with this beautiful expression, Sibghat Allah. And then Allah says, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ مِنَ اللَّهِ سِبْغَةً.
What better color? In other words, what better adaptation? What better personality will you have than the one that Allah demands? وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ مِنَ اللَّهِ صِبْغًا. And then we make this declaration. This is what you should say to them. In other words, قُولُوا is implied here. وَنَحْنُ لَهُ عَابِدُونَ. And we alone are the ones that are worshipping Him. And so there are two implications here. In نَحْنُ لَهُ عَابِدُونَ. There are two implications that are very powerful. The first of them is, we're the ones that are doing worship of Him. Not you guys, actually. You guys think you're worshipping Him, but you're not. نَحْنُ لَهُ عَابِدُونَ. And the other is, نَحْنُ لَهُ عَابِدُونَ. The lahu muqaddam, the jar majrur muqaddam implies, we're only worshipping Him. We're the ones that only worship Him. When you worship, you bring something else into the picture. But when we do it, we keep it exclusive. نَحْنُ لَهُ وَعَابِدُونَ. It's more powerful than saying نَحْنُ عَابِدُونَ لَهُ. There's a difference in the format of speech.